And so the longer, like as soon as you make that decision of, hey, you know what, I'm going to let go. I'm just going to be here. I'm not going to worry about anything I got to do later, what I did earlier. I'm not going to think about this, that, or the other. I'm just going to be here with my breath. When you fully commit to that, that's when you feel it. That's when you change. It's an instantaneous. You don't have to wait for shit. Like it happens
Yeah.
then.
Today's episode is with Natalie Newhart. Natalie is a nutrition and performance coach, a former professional athlete, and the founder of Fit Addicted Nutrition. After a health scare ended her athletic and physique career, Natalie took on a whole new approach to diet and fitness. She experienced firsthand how the stress of obsessing over food and working harder in the gym led to hypothyroid, adrenal fatigue, stress-induced menopause, diabetes, and a 20-pound weight gain in 2 months. So in this episode, we're diving deep into why so many people, especially women, can be doing everything right, eating well, working out, sleeping, tracking their food, paying attention to their movement, all the things, but still not seeing the changes they want in their body composition. We talk about the power of your mindset and how that has a huge impact on keeping you in a stressed, anxiety-driven state. So this was a really fun conversation with Natalie, and I'm excited for you to hear it because I know that you're going to learn a lot and take away a lot of tools and techniques that she talks about in her practice. Let's get into it. Welcome back to MetFlex and Chill. This is your host, Rachel Gregory, and I'm here with Natalie Newhart. Natalie, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to have you here. We're going to be talking all things mindset today and probably go down some rabbit holes of some different things. We were talking a little bit offline how we have some similar backgrounds in the sense of, doing a lot and feeling like we always kind of have to go and not realizing that there is a lot of merit in the ability to kind of take a step back and bring that stress down and really focus on that side of things, and that being able to get you to your goals, especially when it comes to different mindset practices and things like that. So I definitely want to dive into all of that. And before we do that, do you want to give our listeners or viewers just a background? Tell us your story, who you are, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. So I'll try to keep it short. I tend to ramble, and if I do, just interrupt. That's fine. So basically, my journey started. Man, geez, I can't believe it. It's already been like I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. But I got involved with CrossFit, and as soon as I started CrossFit, I wanted to take it all the way. So I wanted to go to the CrossFit Games, and so I started to train like a CrossFit Games athlete. I opened up my own gym and I worked out all day long, and ended up, so I developed like that kind of training mentality. And then I went to the CrossFit Games in 2013. After that, I ended up tried making it back. I didn't make it, and I was realizing that like I needed to switch paths, and so I got into bodybuilding. And that's where I really learned a lot about like the aesthetic side of things, right? So CrossFit was all about like physical performance, and that's when, I've always kind of been super competitive, like go go go, just from like the way that I was brought up. But then I learned like all the, kind of the intricacies of like how do I look a certain way? How do I make a really lean body? And I picked up some really bad eating disorders from bodybuilding, like real bad, like just out of control. And then I went back into CrossFit, and I coupled up my CrossFit training style with a bodybuilding diet, like 800 calories a day, training 5-6 hours a day. So I thought I was superhuman. I was just like,
Yeah.
Like everybody told me, you can't, like, you got to rest, and, you got to, just take care of the body. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, I'm an athlete. Like, I got this, and anyways, so what that ended up in is I ended up gaining 20 pounds in 2 months. Like my body it just broke down. Like over the course of 2 months, I gained 20 pounds, became diabetic, hypothyroid, adrenal fatigue, and then in stress-induced menopause, right? And the coaches that I was working with, like just general nutrition coaches, they didn't know really, like they were just like, yeah, you're stressed. You got to like stress less. And like, so I did some things, right? So I stopped working out so hard and I started to, walk more and take some baths and stuff like that. But then I just like all that energy that I wasn't putting into the gym, I put into my business. I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to like not be at the gym, I'm going to crush my business, and the same thing happened is, I gained weight again. I got puffy, like my eyes, I would get so tired in the middle of the day that I felt like I'd fall asleep. Everything just basically came back, and I realized, well, like, I'm doing all the things you're supposed to be doing, but it just happened again. And so I realized that the stress was coming from internally, like my mental stress. And so I ended up working with like my trainer, my sort of, you can call him a coach, but he's really like a guru slash master on, psychology, neurology, just like the inner patterns, right? The way my behavior patterns, the way that I'm always so go, 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 so driven, always crossing things off, making to-do lists, and, the feeling like I'm never doing enough. And it wasn't until I started to look at that and retrain that did I create not only self-control with food, but my body leaned out, all my health came back. And ever since I've been training that. Yeah. So it was a mindset, an internal issue, not food or physical stress.
Yeah, I feel like that's super powerful in the sense that a lot of people just don't really, I mean, it took me, and I'm still not there yet, but I'm, working on that. Something I've been really working on the last few years. Had a similar kind of experience with an injury that I got from CrossFit, which basically just forced me to just stop altogether. And so then I put my focus into my business as well. Kind of a very similar story. But yeah, it's just crazy because we don't realize that like everything starts in the mind, right? Everything that you're doing starts in the mind, and that, flows through everything else. Like what you think will dictate your actions, what you're, doing every single day in terms of like how you start your day. That's going to dictate, how the rest of the day goes, how the rest of the week goes, and all of that. So I definitely want to dive into some of the things that you've kind of realized, I guess, over this kind of healing period within certain practices that you implement with mindset practices, or just some things that you want to dive into that have really helped you kind of go from that, go, go, go mentality to like, all right, let's chill for a sec and figure out what's actually going to propel me forward and get this stress reduction down and really, feed into the other parts of my lifestyle. So are there any practices or anything that you want to talk to in that regard?
Oh God, yeah. I've got so much information. I could talk forever.
Go for it.
Well, the first thing is that, okay, so first off, like the one thing that I wanted was, yes, of course I wanted a lean body, but I also had a very disrupted eating disorder. Like I was just always obsessed with food, right? Always thinking about food, always thinking about when should I eat? Is that too much? Is that too little? Counting down the macros, making sure everything fits. I was so, I trained my mind to be so obsessive in that way from all the years of dieting and tracking macros as an athlete, right? And so the one thing that I really wanted was peace with food. Okay. So part of that sort of like of my stress was this constant inner chatter, this back and forth of around food. Like, am I eating too much? Should I eat that? When am I going to eat that? Like, just, that was a mental stress. And so the thing that I really wanted more than anything is I got clear about what I wanted more than anything. And that was peace with food. Like I wanted to just have some peace in my mind where I didn't have to freaking obsess over this stupid shit. Sorry, I don't know if you can.
No,
test,
you're good.
But
We can.
Okay.
All good.
It was just taking so much of my brain power, and I just I just couldn't live. I couldn't even hold a conversation without thinking about like my next workout or my next meal. And as a result, like that led me to eating because I didn't have very good self-control with food because of the bodybuilding stuff. And so then I found myself like eating and then using the gym to, work it off. And like I was stuck in that cycle, and every single day was like that. And I was exhausted. There was a point where I was just like, I'm freaking done with this. And I And all I wanted was just peace with food and freedom in the gym, like where I could just go work out, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. And this is important because I got clear about what I wanted, okay? Because that pattern of that obsessiveness around food in the gym was the thing that's keeping me from the body I wanted, right? Like, for women that are older, like over 35, I like to say that, hey, a female body that is stressed is a body that doesn't burn fat. It's a body that wants to store fat. And so if I wanted to but have the lean body, I actually, like, part of that was to figure out how to create peace with food, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
one, I took the stress off, and two, like I wasn't it's just not what I wanted. I just wanted to live instead of like always focusing on this stuff. So I got clear about what I want. And that's like the first number, like step one with
Mm-hmm.
if you want to change something about your body or your patterns, your habits, whatever, you have to be crystal clear about what it is that you do want. And I don't mean like a physical thing, like yeah, that's great, like like seeing the body that you want, but what's the experience that you want to know around food and the gym and with life? Like what is the way that you want to wake up and go through your day? What would that look like? Okay, because so
Mm-hmm.
many people, they're like, oh, I just, I wish I had peace with food, and I just wish I didn't think about it all the time. But then they just go do diets, and so the two don't really mesh.
Mm-hmm.
Creates more anxiety, and so you got to get clear, like, oh, like, if I want this lean body, but I also want to like be able to go for hikes and not worry about the workout that I'm not getting in. I want to be able to connect with people on a deeper level instead of worrying about the food that I ate earlier or my next meal. I want to be able to trust myself with food, around any food. I want to be able to leave food on my plate. Like, get clear about the relationship that you want, you know, um, with food in the gym and the life you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then that will dictate, okay, that's where you want to go. All right, let's start to do the work, right? This is where you are. Okay, I'm obsessing over food, right? And I'm attached to my diet plan, or I'm attached to tracking macros. Okay, it's no big deal. Like, that's just where I am. No judgment there. It's not good or bad, but that will never create this sense of freedom with food,
Mm-hmm.
right? The obsession and constant analyzing will never ever create what you want. And that's the thing to get clear about. So, number one, you got to know what you want, right? And then number two, you got to know where you are. Hey, what are my patterns right now? And what patterns do I want to keep that are good for me? Like, maybe it's like, hey, I've got a great morning routine. I get my workout in, and I'm good at doing my workout and motivating myself. Cool. Let's probably keep that one, right? But then there's some other patterns that aren't serving you, like the constant overthinking of food, or not being able to take a rest day. Like, those are the ones that we got to change, right? So we see where we
Mm-hmm.
want to go, we see where we are, and then in the middle is the training. It's the skills.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we train our nervous system. It's where we train our mind, right? So, um, like, yeah, and it's where we have to train we have to train our nervous system to be able to relax. You said
Mm-hmm.
that, yes, actions are driven from the way that we're thinking in that moment, but even a step further than that is those thoughts that you're thinking, the way that your mind is thinking is a result of the emotion that you're feeling in that moment. And those emotions that we feel in that moment are the thing that drives the mind to worry, to doubt, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that was been imprinted in our nervous system for our from our past history, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to learn how to retrain the patterns emotionally, and also the thoughts in our mind mentally, in
Mm-hmm.
order to bridge the gap.
Yeah, I mean, it makes so much sense. Just like a lot of things, it's easier said than done, right? So
Oh yeah,
yeah, what are,
right.
like, where would you start? Like, if you're like, okay, I understand this, I need to figure out what I want with my lifestyle, and kind of starting with step one, like, what am I aspiring for? Like, what do I see? Like you said, what do I want to feel every time I wake up in the morning? And like, how do I want my day to be? How do I want my week to look? All of that,
Yeah,
while still, getting closer to our goals, right? So when you say train your nervous system, like, what's like the first step that someone could take if they want to take like something practical away, to kind of
yeah.
get on that path?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So just to kind of create some context here, right? Most people, from the moment that they wake up to the moment they go to bed, especially women, because we tend to be the more anxious type, right?
Yeah.
Are going, right? And they like, as soon as they wake up, their nervous system is in a fight or flight state, right? Checking the phone, they get up, they take a shower as they're like listening to music and they're getting the kids ready, and then that goes on all day long. And so most people are living in this perpetual state of like a low grade state of stress, low grade state of anxiety, right? Um, and because they've trained it so much, it's become their norm. The switch has been gotten stuck on, and people don't know how to relax, or they know how to relax, but they can't actually get themselves to do it, because the biggest threat to go is calm down. Like that's the mind, you know, the mind doesn't like change. I was just thinking, I posted something in my story today, my IG story. I was like, change is like wearing high-waisted pants for the first time. I don't know about you, but like when I first wore them, I was like, this shit is awkward. Like it's all the way pulled up past my belly button, and it's like feels uncomfortable and weird and wrong. And I was thinking like, it's the same thing, So getting ourselves to slow down and sit still, it's going to feel awkward, wrong, and uncomfortable. Okay. But that is the training that needs to start to happen, right? In order for you to start seeing results from your diet and exercise, but also know a better quality of life. Okay. So how do we do that? A variety of ways, but the first way is going to be just the 4-sided breath. Like, honestly, I started with 1 breath a day. Like in the morning when I wake up, I just started with doing 1 breath. And then I've, obviously trained much more than that. But a 4-sided breath is where you inhale fully, you pause and hold at the top, and then you exhale fully, and you pause and hold at the bottom. And it takes practice, okay? Because most people, when they breathe, they're going to breathe through the chest. And they're also going to like try to strain because they really think that they've got to get like the maximum amount of air.
Yeah.
It's not that, it's a full breath, but it's relaxed, right? And you want to focus on breathing through your belly. So the whole body, the nervous system, you're teaching, training, conditioning, just like the gym, you're conditioning the nervous system to turn off, to relax. Okay. And the better you get at it, in the beginning, it's going to be like, it probably, you're going to do maybe, 5 minutes, and you may not even feel all that different, but eventually the better that you get with it, the more reps you do, the more practice you do, the more you're going to be, the more you're going to understand what it's like to relax. The more you're going to give yourself permission to relax. And as a result, that nervous system ticks from being on all the time, being stuck on, to now you can turn it off. And when you get good at that, you can live in that state where the nervous system isn't always in that wired go, fight or flight state, which, I understand in the beginning, it's scary because a lot of women kind of like that state, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but it's not serving your body goals. But not only that, like you can still get shit. I'm not saying be lazy. I'm saying just do it in a way where you're not so tense. You're not so anxious. You can still get stuff done, but you can have fun with it. You can be relaxed about it. You can be calm. You can be grateful. You can be joyful.
I love that. I think you mentioned something about, you just said it about, how we like the feeling of being kind of stimulated all the time. And I was just thinking, so like yesterday or the day before, I posted a video. I'm not really on TikTok, but my team posted a video about, when I was talking about comparing CrossFit style training to like bodybuilding style training, and kind of the issues that I had for myself and that I see with a lot of clients when they're doing these high intensity, classes like CrossFit, Orange Theory. So we were talking about that a little bit. And in the comments of that, a lot of people were just mentioning, and I will say there are a lot of women just talking about like, but I love the feeling. I love the feeling of, being dead on the floor after the workout. It's just like those endorphins are running. I don't know, how to get away from that because I like that stimulation. And so you just kind of talk to that, how it's something that we kind of crave or look to crave. And there was another mention of, I was talking about actually within bodybuilding, like the fact that, you know, sweating doesn't equal a great workout. Like it's not a, just because you're sweating a ton and you're out of breath, it doesn't mean that you like, you have to do that to have a good workout, right? Especially when it comes to like lifting weights and stuff. And people are like, well, I love sweating, I love the feeling. And so I think it's one of those things, like you said, like we're trained to we've trained ourselves to want that kind of like a little bit of pain, right? Because we know that it feels good, right? Sorry, were you going to say something?
Oh, I can always say something. Keep going.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I was just going to say like what you said kind of just resonated that. So with that breath, so I'm just curious, like how, because it's something that seems so simple, right? But it's like, how do we actually like put that into practice, and like how long, I guess for you, like how long did it take you to really start to kind of feel like that was making a difference in your life? Like, was it just getting into the daily practice of doing it for, you know, a month or two? Like how did it kind of evolve for you?
Yeah. So probably, in the beginning, like it's really uncomfortable, like when I was working with my coach, I was supposed to do 20 minutes a day, and I was like, yeah, right. I'm not going to do that. Like I could barely get 5 in. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, and I was doing it like maybe 3 times a week. So, it's just like anything. Like in the beginning, it's just like, you really got to it's discipline, right? Because you got to know what you want and why you want it. And I would say, it would like I mean, honestly, dude, like it takes as long as you want. That's the thing. Because I have clients where they just get it quick because they let go quicker, right? Me, I was like clinging. I was like, I was trying to force it so much. I was really clinging to that. Just, always, am I doing it right? And, oh, that wasn't a good breath. And that was a good, like, it's just like, I was constantly judging and worrying, and I didn't let myself be fully immersed in the breath. And so the longer, like as soon as you make that decision of, hey, you know what, I'm going to let go. I'm just going to be here. I'm not going to worry about anything I got to do later, what I did earlier. I'm not going to think about this, that, or the other. I'm just going to be here with my breath. When you fully commit to that, that's when you feel it. That's when you change. It's an instantaneous. You don't have to wait for shit. Like it happens then, but the hard part is, or not the hard part, it's just, it's different for everybody. Some people really just like, they relax into it immediately. To me, it probably took me, I mean, it's an always progression, but it probably took me to really start like being okay with it, maybe a month to, I mean, a month or so, before I started to like maybe kind of enjoy it, yeah. So
yeah. And so I guess to piggyback off that, I kind of want to dive, because I don't want to forget about asking this, because I know a lot of people struggle with this continuously, as do I. Kind of going back to like the food obsession and the stress around food, and always thinking about it. How, like, are there specific practices or tactics within that you were able to kind of implement, and kind of like, did you have this like epiphany that was like, all right, I'm not obsessed with food anymore. I'm not thinking about food, or I'm not obsessed with like tracking every single macro and things like that. Cause I work with a lot of clients too, where I do use macros, as a gauge, right, to have the data there and all of that stuff. But eventually, getting away from that. Like if you don't have, like if you've gotten to your goal and you're looking to just kind of live more intuitively, as we call it, that process is different for everyone, but it's a hard process to get there. So I'm just wondering, like within the kind of the food focus, side of things, are there specifics within that you like can give to some of our listeners? Like, hey, I did like a few of these things and they really helped me to move towards that. Obviously the breath and, relaxing the nervous system and all of that is probably part of it, right? But are there like any other things that are like practical practices that you did, and then you kind of got to this point where you're like, wow, like I really feel like this has made a difference?
Yeah. So first off, I just want to say that like, I'm not against macros. I'm not for macros, right? Like and neither is good or bad, right or wrong. It's always goes back to the vision. What is your vision? What is your experience that you want to know with, around food and your life, right? And just making sure that you're aligned with that. Just like, hey, like CrossFit's not good or bad. It's just, is it taking you where you want to go? Is it getting you results? Like if it's not getting you results, then, I mean, that's fine too, but don't say that you want this and then you're doing something that isn't going to get you results. Right. So, just getting clear about, what it is you want and making sure that, hey, who do I need to become to create that? Right. And so for me, I wanted peace with food. And so I was like, okay, there's a certain person I need to become, right? Obviously, I am not that. And then as you said an epiphany, I did have this one moment where I was walking on a trail and, I had been just kind of, how we do it, like when we're trying to change, we say we want to change, but then we don't really fully commit. And we kind of we just bounce, we're in this gray zone, and we're constantly tomorrow I'm going to start. And then we go back into the pattern again. And then tomorrow I'm going to start. And then we fall back into our pattern that day. So there was this moment when I was on the trail and I was just like, man, I'm fucking done. I'm done with playing games. I'm done with lying to myself. I am going all in. And so I first declared what does that look like that I want to be? I painted the picture of the person, how she acts around food, the way that I want to feel, the person I want to be, the habits I want to embody around food, around the gym, the way I wanted my body to look. And then I went out and I studied people. I studied people that had what I wanted, right? So one of them was my boyfriend, because, during my whole entire time of having these eating disorders, of just not being able to control myself around food. Meanwhile, he would have a bag of cookies or something on his desk, literally next to his computer, and he wouldn't even touch them all week long. I'd be like, are you freaking kidding me? Those things would be down and I'd be thinking about them, on my drive home, and then white knuckling my way to not eat them if they were sitting right in front of me, So I asked, I studied my boyfriend. I was like, dude, what goes through your mind? When you eat that Chipotle and you just have a couple bites and you don't eat the whole thing, what's going through your mind there? Because I got to start thinking like that. I got to start being like that. And so he told me some of the things that he, the things that he thought about and how he didn't like having a full stomach. And I was like, oh, okay. That's interesting. That's new. Right. And then I studied other people that, had what I wanted, just had a sense of joy and, love for the body and peace, and because I knew that those are the qualities that I had to train. I had to become more peaceful, right? I had to be more centered, more grounded so that I could control myself when I was around food, that I had access to make a different decision, right? Instead of just reacting every single time, every single time I got stressed out or was impulsive, I had to be able to control that. So I needed I needed to train centeredness. And so I studied people who, had what I wanted. And then I started to ingrain that. I started to become it. I started to be and train myself into the person that I needed to be to have that. Right. So that's, and I have 52 tools. I have a 1-year program and every single week there's a new tool on how to do that. Right. So, because it's, you have to take it step by step. You can't just, it's a training and you need a system. You need a step-by-step process. Otherwise our patterns are strong and you'll just go back into what feels comfortable in that moment. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Would you say, so with the 52 tools that you have, obviously the breath is one of those, or multiple tools, multiple different types, I guess. Are there any other kind of ones that are kind of higher up on the spectrum that you tend to see make a big impact from the beginning? If you could pick 2 other ones that you've seen with your clients that really tend to get things started?
Yeah. So I'd say the biggest things that we train. So we go through 4 different phases, and within we train the mind, we train the nervous system, we train the vision, and we train our higher self, intuition. And within each one of those programs, those 12-week programs, there's 12 tools, right? 12 weeks of tools. And always the first 4 are all about awareness. Where am I at? What am I feeling? What is the mind thinking? And we train that really well, really intensely, so that we because there's that split moment before you take that action that is creating the thing that you don't want. So like for me, before I go for that food, that impulse of, oh, I just want to taste, I need to have an awareness that I'm there,
Mm-hmm.
because it's in that moment, that window of opportunity where I can see, oh, I'm about to do that thing that keeps me where I am. And it's in that window, you got to be aware and say, no, thank you. Right. So no, thank you to those that what we see as an opportunity to have that food. Right. Oh, that looks
Mm-hmm.
so good. It's going to taste so good. What an opportunity. That sounds like so much fun. I really want to taste. I want it now. Right. There's that window where I've got to be, oh, there's the pattern. Right. And I've got to
Mm-hmm.
be able to redirect it. So awareness is one of the tools, and we train 4 weeks of that. Then we do about 3 weeks or so of breath, like 3 to 4 weeks of just like, hey, I'm aware that that pattern's there. Okay, I'm gonna shift it. I'm gonna use the breath, and then we do another 4 weeks of redirecting. Hey, I'm gonna focus on where I want to go. Who do I need to be? What can I? Why do I not need that right now? What is my vision, and what action can I take right now to align with that? Maybe I can, you know, uh, ask myself, hey, is the body even hungry? Or maybe in that moment, I take a breath and I go for a walk, or I focus on why I don't need that food, or why it's okay for me to rest. Like we redirect the mind so that we start to train ourselves into a person that feels in control around food, that has that peace of mind. Um, and also is able to take rest days without going into a full-blown panic of, am I going to be fat the next day?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
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 So, and it same goes like when, like, hey, oh, I'm aware that my mind is obsessing over food right now. I'm aware that my mind is thinking about food just in general. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of that. I'm going to do the breath, and I'm going to focus on what I want to be, like the outcome I want. I'm going to focus on, having a wonderful relationship with my boyfriend, or hiking in the woods and just feeling so connected to nature. I'm going to redirect my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Yeah.
those are like the three big macro tools, but we go
Mm-hmm.
really specific within that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the awareness piece. That is definitely, in my opinion, like the the first step in terms of just like being able to
Yeah.
create that awareness and thinking about, okay, like, the instant gratification versus like the long-term satisfaction, and like where do I want to be 6 months from now, not where
Yeah.
do I want to be like in a week, right? And so kind of
Yeah.
being creating that awareness is super important. I think just for me, one of the things that, because I went through a lot of, food focus, it's kind of same as you, and I still struggle with it. I think everybody does. Like it's one of those things that's you constantly need to practice, like all the things that you
Yep.
said. One of the things that really resonated with me, and I had kind of my own epiphany moment, was when I stopped kind of thinking in this scarcity mindset. And when I say that, I mean, if I were to go to a party on the weekend and there was like, you know, a plate of cookies or like a candy jar or whatever, like taking a step back and being like, oh, like, oh my gosh, like I can, this is my cheat day or my cheat meal. So I can, consume all this stuff, but taking a step back and realizing that like, this is always going to be here. Like I could literally stop
Mm-hmm.
this podcast right now and go to the corner store and get the same box of cookies that's always going to be on that shelf. Like it's
Yeah.
always going to be there. Right. So
Yeah.
that for me helped a little bit, just to realize that like this kind of scarcity versus abundance mindset, where you kind of get away from that scarcity thinking like you can only have this in this period of time because this is your quote unquote cheat meal or cheat day or whatever it is. But taking a step back and realizing like I can have that whenever I want. It's not going anywhere. It's always going to be here. Food is always going to be around. And so that one thing, it's obviously not like a specific practice or anything like that, but that built awareness for me. And so that helped me to continue to think about that when I was in a situation like that. So
Yeah.
that what you mentioned about awareness, that was one of the kind of like the light bulb moments that I had.
Yeah. And so with that, so you can retrain your mind. It's going to take a lot longer if you like. That's one of the things that we would do in like when we're training the mind in the train the mind phase is redirect the focus. Like, hey, like why is there's food? There's going to be food here later. There's plenty to go around, right? But that will take you much longer to make that switch, to create that sense of peace with food, just because everything it's a neurological event first, right? So when we were younger, mom and dad took us out to get ice cream, and we tied joy and, a sense of reward to food and fun foods like that, right? And so that got trained in our nervous system way back when. And so when we're around those foods, that's what gets activated inside of us, which makes us drive the mind to think, oh my God, there it is. I want some. How fun it would be to have that. And then that, you know, gives you gives most people the impulse to want to eat that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is that like it got wired like that. And so if you want to not feel such a strong impulse from food or, with food like that, is you got to rewire that nervous system so that it's more like food becomes something like you wire gratitude with it, maybe appreciation or love, as opposed to seeing it as like a reward and joy and excitement. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and how we do that is, again, like I said, you can train your emotions, you can train your nervous system, just like you've trained joy with food and, reward, just like you've trained anxiety by feeling it over and over. We get good at emotions by feeling them. And some of these emotions have been wired incorrectly, to the point where it's driving our impulse for food, so it's like you turn on the light switch and the sprinklers go off. It's like they just got wired wrong, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if we want to feel at peace with food, or, a sense of appreciation and control, like we want to be able to train gratitude, train appreciation for the body, and when we think about food,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? So by feeling
Yeah.
it, yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. For sure. I want to switch gears a little bit in terms of like from the food side of things to the workout side of things.
yeah,
And really speaking to kind of like the CrossFit high intensity workouts, those things where we're getting kind of that feeling, those endorphins. And also kind of like for me, my biggest struggle taking a step away from CrossFit was because I really enjoyed like the family atmosphere. I enjoyed the competition side of things, obviously. And so for me, it was like, I want to go to CrossFit, 5 times a week, 6 times a week, because I enjoy being there. But, obviously I got to a point where it wasn't serving me anymore, and I wasn't, getting the results that I wanted. And I was, pushing myself more into that kind of the stress state, right? I had all these other stressors going on in my life. So my stress bucket was just like overflowing. And that was one of the things that I looked at as my outlet. And a lot of people look at like their workout, right, as their
right,
outlet. They're like, oh, yeah, this is another stress, but like it makes me feel good. So I look at it as a stress reliever. But when we're talking about things like high intensity training and CrossFit and things like that, how do we like, can we just talk a little bit about how that, it feels good in the moment? And yes, it can be looked at as a de-stressor from that side of things. But what are some of the issues that arise with just that constant physical stress that you're putting yourself under, especially for females who maybe their main goal is they want to, lose body fat, change their body composition, and they're like, all right, I'm going to go get a hard CrossFit workout in, and then, be in a calorie deficit and, do all these things to get to the result. But like, why is that such an issue? Like from the exercise standpoint and the high intensity side of things, like what are some of the things that are really, pulling you back that you might not see now, but are going to show up, in 6 months from now? I know that was a little bit of a confusing question.
okay. I think you're asking, what are the signs and symptoms of stress?
Yeah. And as it relates to more of those, like people who are in, working out high intensity training, and they love that as a huge part of their life, but how do they balance that,
Yeah,
right? How do they, get the benefits from that, but
yeah,
then also get the benefits from, managing that stress level?
yeah, yeah. Okay. So first off, again, CrossFit's not good. It's not bad, right? It's just, is it working for you? Is it, are you getting results off of it? And then it's up to you. Like, if you don't care about results, then go ahead and crush yourself, but chances are you will suffer from, the body's going to get beat up and start, deteriorating. And I actually just did a podcast on this, like how, the way that we train needs to evolve as we get older. In our 20s, it's all about CrossFit, right? It's all about like jumping, sprinting, lifting, like going hard. Like we want to do that. Then as we get into our 30s, it's, instead of that being kind of like, a 90-10, 90% of the time we're doing CrossFit and 10% we're resting in our 20s. Now it's kind of like, oh, it's in our 30s, it's like 70-30. 70% of the time, maybe we're, and I can't even do it like that much, but maybe 70%, 60 to 70% of the time we're going hard, and, 30 to 40% we're doing more, strength training, resting, right? And then in our 40s, it's more like, oh, it's like, maybe 50-50 or 40-60%. And then our 50s, it's like we can do less and less. And so the way that we train does, if you want to create peak health and vitality in the body, which is different from just aesthetics and different from performance, it's peak health and vitality is like, I feel strong, I feel alive, I feel capable, I can run up this mountain, I look good, I feel good, but like, I mean, I look decent, maybe not like, shredded like CrossFit or bodybuilding, right? It's just like, hey, I look and feel good, right? If that's your goal, that's the way that the training needs to evolve, okay? And how do you start to, actually make that happen? Like, you have to start spending time with yourself. That's what I've noticed is you have to learn how to listen to your body. There's no plan. I don't care what plan you go on. There's no plan that's going to be designed specifically for you. And so in order for us to be able to develop a relationship with the body, we have to spend time with it. We got to frequently check in with it in the first thing in the morning. Hey, where's the body at today? What does it need? And really, like, once you start to see like what a good body feels like, then you can start to, change, align yourself with the right things to do that day. Like this morning, I decided to rest. I mean, it was kind of for some other reasons, but like mainly because I was like super anxious and I just needed to feel centered and grounded. But a lot of times, like I'll move the body, I'll warm it up, and then I ask myself, hey, where's it at? What does it need to feel its best right now? And sometimes I'm beat up, I'm sore. And so then I'll do just a yellow day, which is like, I'll get in the gym, but I'm just not crushing myself. Other days I feel great. I'm like, yeah, I feel poppy. I feel like, energetic and vibrant. And that on those days I'll do a green day, which is where I train harder and typically eat more. So eat more, train more. And then on the days where like we actually have like a scale, right? So like on a scale of 1 to 10, if the body feels like an 8 to 10, it's a green day, right? Eat more, train more. CrossFit stuff like that. If the body's like from a 4 to a 7, that is going to be a yellow day where, hey, I'm going to move it. I'm going to train, but I'm not going to crush, I'm not going to go super hard, super intense. And then if the body's like a 1 to a 3, that's a red day. So if the body feels beat up, tired, sluggish, achy, like just doesn't feel good, we eat less, train less. We do a little bit of body weight movement, but we just mainly go for a walk. We do our breath work. We do a lot of energy work, mindset work, stuff like that. So it starts by giving yourself permission to just ask, hey, where's the body at right now? And I do use the term the body because it helps you take a third person, like look from the outside in, as opposed to, oh, but I really should do that. And like, what happens if I don't? And like, well, like, yeah, my body feels beat up, but I'm sure I'll feel better later. Like once I get through the warm up, like it's like all that shit, So we want to look at it as like, hey, the bot, like, just like how you would treat like your pet or your kid, like, you're gonna, you want to provide the best for it. And so you're going to just like, check it out, like detect it, like, what does it need, or your plant,
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that. I love how you kind of broke it down, red, yellow, green. And it made me think of something that I had. So this is another question too, I guess. So last week, and I like actually recorded this I have a membership group, and I was kind of thinking through this as I was walking back from the gym. So I like recorded myself talking, and I was kind of had this, it was one of those days where I just like was not feeling going like to work out, but it wasn't like a physical thing. It was more like a mental, right? And so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna, put my shoes on and I'm gonna just walk, because I walk to the gym. It's about a half mile. So I was like, I'm just gonna walk to the gym, and I'm supposed to be doing lower body. So that was like one of the things too, like for me, getting amped up to do lower body versus an upper body day for me. And for most people, it's a little bit more of a taxing mentally. So it was a lower body day, and I was like, oh man, like it was last Friday. I was like, I just can't, like, I don't feel like this. I was pushing it off, making every excuse in the world. And it got to like midday and I was just like, all right, like, I know that if I don't at least just get up and try, that I'm going to have a crap rest of the day. Like, I was planning to go out to dinner that night. I know that I'm going to kind of like just not feel good, right? I'm not going to just feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, I'm just going to put my shoes on. I'm going to walk to the gym. And when I get to the gym, I'm going to make it like a low intensity cardio day. I'm just going to get on the treadmill and walk, for 30 minutes, whatever, on an incline. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to like switch my training around and do that. So I got to the gym and I started walking, and then I was like, okay, like, I look at my workout, I'm like, all right, like, I'm just going to like do one set. Like, I'm going to do the first exercise and just see how I feel. Right. So I like go in and I do, it's like RDLs is my first exercise. I do one set and I'm like, okay, this feels pretty good. I'm just going to like do these 4 sets and then I'm going to go back to the treadmill. And so I ended up doing the 4 sets of the RDL and I was like, wow, I feel good. So I was like, I'm just going to keep going. So I ended up doing the whole workout, and it was one of the best lower body sessions that I've had in like probably 2 months.
Yeah.
And so I came out of it and I was like ecstatic because I was like, I feel great now. Like, the rest of my day is going to be amazing. But it was a mental shift that I needed to make. So I guess my question to you is like, how do we decipher between like obviously feelings of soreness and like, yeah, if like I can't get up off my seat and my quads are like burning, yeah, that's like physical soreness. But like, how do we distinguish between the mental, maybe like laziness or just like no motivation versus the physical? Like, does that make sense? Okay.
Such a great question.
Yeah.
Such a great question. So first off, notice that once you took the expectation off and the pressure off, it was fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Once you stopped focusing on how hard it was going to be, it became fun because you didn't have this expectation of I have to do all these things. Oh my God, like I just don't feel it, right? So the way that you were focused on that workout in that moment, like on your way to the walk or before you started walking, you were focused on it in a way that was creating such a burden, right? Oh, like it's going to be like, oh, I just need so much energy and I just don't know if I got the energy and oh my God, like, as opposed to the way that you're going to feel afterwards, right? And, what a loving thing to do for the body is to challenge it. So like, that's the thing. It's like, people see my stuff and they're kind of like, what? You like, don't work hard? I'm like, no, I freaking work hard. I just love working hard. I do it from a place of love, not from a place of fear, not because I have to, but because it's what an opportunity, what a loving thing to do for the body is to make it strong and capable. Right. And on those days, like when I notice that I'm feeling like when the mind, right, you got to separate the mind from the heart. Okay. Or the mind from the body, basically. The mind will focus on how hard it is, what, like how many reps I got to do and like, how heavy it is. And it creates this, and also like like this expectation of how hard I have to go and how much I have to lift. And it creates this pressure and this burden that just says, ugh, right? And as opposed to focusing on, man, like what a loving thing to do for the body is to challenge it with this weight and also like what I'm going to create, like how good am I going to feel today, but also like the body, what an opportunity it is to build the body into a magnificent, thing that allows me to live the life I want, where I can just run up a mountain or I can do this race or I can, pick up my dirt bike or whatever, like. So we want to be aware of what is the mind focused on? Because if the mind is focused on the burden of it, how hard it's going to be, that's just the mind. Like that's a pattern in the mind, something that you've trained, and it's kind of a habit of the mind. The unconscious mind is to just focus on how hard it is, as opposed to, focusing on, why you love it, how good it feels, and what it's going to mean for you that day. So you want to be aware on those days where you're like, I don't feel like working out, like the body doesn't, or like where you're like, yeah, I think today's a red day. I think today's a rest day, right? Be aware of how you're focused, where the mind is focused. If the mind is focused on how hard it's going to be, that's just mental chatter. Get your ass to the gym and go freaking move the body and do it from a place of love, right? But if you notice that like the body's actually like, it's, and this is what takes some training, right? If the body's really like feeling run down and you feel like you need to just like ground and center and breathe and just kind of rejuvenate the body, like that's where you listen to it. Okay. But a lot of times, most people like you and me, a lot of times people don't work out because they let the mind get in the way because they're focused on how hard it is.
Yeah.
Right. But people like, then you also have the people that like can't get themselves to rest. Right.
Yeah.
Like they fear not going to the gym. And again, you want to be aware of where the mind is focused, and as a result of that, they never see the results that they could have. And they're always exhausted and they're always injured or always hungry. They can't control themselves around food. So the key is separate the mind from the heart by starting to pay attention to what a good body feels like and make that your baseline and do things that will, listen to the heart, listen to the body. Don't listen to the mind. People think that they should listen to the mind. I don't listen to the mind. Never. Like I train the mind to think in a direction that will take me where I want to go, that will create a lean, vital body. And part of that is pushing it, man, challenging it, right? Making that mind strong and making the body strong. The other part of it, hey, knowing when the body needs to rest, right? And we gotta, especially women, like especially women.
Yeah, for sure. Do you feel like, so, with where you're talking about kind of shifting from focusing on the mind and like, are there any like prompts during the day that you have to remind you of this? Or like,
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we can talk about some of that. And I have like this post-it note. So have you ever, before we get into that, let me just check time. Okay. So do you have a few more minutes?
I got a few more minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So have you ever heard of the book Tiny Habits?
I think I have.
It's one of those like self-development habit books. I do like a book club in my membership group. It's called the Flex Family membership. It's pretty new, but we're reading this book together called Tiny Habits. And one of the things they started with, and I actually wrote this on a Post-it note and put it on my computer, says, "I change best by feeling good, not feeling bad." And so that I just wanted to point out because some of the things that you've said align with that, right? So like we have to focus on, what we're feeling, like the positives, right? Not like, oh, I feel like I'm looking in the mirror and I feel so fat today, or like, those types of things. So I just wanted to say that out loud. So people heard, I change best by feeling good, not feeling bad. So focusing on the good, focusing on that side versus focusing on the negative and how hard things are and things like that. So with that being said, and this is the last thing we talk about because we're running low on time, but like the prompts during the day. Like, so I have this little Post-it note on my computer sticking there so that I can see it every second. And I kind of do that with some other things, but are there any like tricks or things that you do throughout your day?
Yeah. Like first off, like something like that I would tell my clients that really aligns with that is focus on where you want to go, not where you are, right? Like focus on that vision of who you choose to be and the life you want to live and the body you want to like have, like the experience, not where I am, like not how fat I feel right now, right? Like we want to train our mind and our nervous system to be where we want to go. But in the way that we do that, right? Because the thing is that most of us have trained distraction. We got text messages, emails, the mind thinks about our workout and then our meal. And then it thinks about like that, I don't know, piece of clothing that you should have bought or that you need to return or errand that you need to run or whatever, like the mind is freaking everywhere. So you need to train focus, right? Like that's a problem with so many people is they set these goals, but then it's like, they may be like, it's just the mind, the habit of the mind is to think. It's just thinking all the time. And if you don't give it something to focus on and you don't train it to focus on that one thing all day long, every single day, chances are pretty slim that you're going to create that thing. You're going to get that result. Okay. So we obsess on vision. We obsess on it. I mean, we obsess. And one of the things that we do is we set check-ins in the day, all throughout the day. Every hour, every 2 hours, every 3 hours, whatever. And we check in with ourselves. Hey, where am I? All right. Like, am I aligning with that person who I want to be? And what's my next step? How can I align with that vision right now? How can I think in that way? How can I feel that peace right now? How can I train myself to feel that self-control around food? How can I train myself to feel at peace with this rest day? What reasons, how can I can look to other people to help me feel like, I can look at other people who've done it just to kind of create that belief, So That's what we do. We use check-ins all throughout the day to keep us focused on where we're going. And so that we are like, when you train the mind to do that, it automatically starts to find ways to create that. Like it'll automatically find reasons of why I feel at peace right now. Like reasons to yeah, it's kind of hard. I don't want to go into it, but it's the mind will start to just orient in that way where you're always, you know, it's always thinking about what I'm working on, what I'm working towards. And you spend less time making decisions that the impulsive decisions like eating food or, you know, forcing yourself to work out or, you know, getting stressed out or whatever, because you're always focused on where you're going.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes total sense. Do you use like, I'm just trying to like get super practical for a takeaway. Like, do you set alarms throughout your day, or like, do you have, okay, like on your phone is like, cause you know, like with the Apple
Yep, just
Watch, you
basic
have
alarm.
like this. Okay, cool. So how many times would you recommend starting? Like, just like you said, every hour or every 3 hours, just to,
Babe, you know, if you want to do 1,000 reps, you change your patterns faster. You get to where you want to be faster. If you want to do 1 rep a day, it may take you 10 years, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
So it's up to you. Like literally every second of the day is an opportunity to ask yourself, where am I right now? And am I being the person that I need to be? That's going to create the life I want. Every second of the day. That's why we do so much awareness training.
Yeah. I love
So
that.
yeah, I mean, you know, but when you just start to get in the habit of you know, setting an alarm every hour, like, and especially if you know, are using like the tools that we have, you will just start to train yourself to always be aware of where I'm at, so that you spend less time creating in the direction that you don't want to go, and you're taking actions that align with where you do want to go.
I love that. I love that. All right. I want to respect your time. So last question. I always end on this question. Is there anything that you've changed your mind about in the last year, and why? Can be anything at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I'm realizing is that there's not one way to do it, you know, to do anything, whether that be meditation. Like there's not one way to get lean, not one way to have to eat or workout that you have to do. There's no right way. And is this like something that I've changed? It's not really, I guess, like even with my business, you know, I've been told, oh, you got to post this many times. You got to do this many stories. You got to write your email list once a week. Like, and I freaking have just said no to all of that. And I just do what works for me. And there's no, it's just, it's just letting go of all I have to do it a certain way, and just making sure that you're aligning with the person that you want to be. Like that's the most important thing. Like just let go of all the expectations of how you have to do things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
So,
that. I love that. It kind of aligns with something I always, try to tell my clients is, we're trying to not fit like when we come up with a plan, it's like, we're not trying to fit you into this plan or your lifestyle into this plan. We're trying to fit the
yeah.
plan into your lifestyle, into what works for you. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that a lot of people get caught up on. Like there's one way, like I have to do it this way because this person did it. So I love that. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this was a really fun conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Do you want to tell our viewers and listeners where they can find you, your website, anything that you're, excited about that you have coming up?
Yeah. So I'm the most active on Instagram. No more Facebook, no more email. Well, I actually do have an email list, but I don't really send out emails anymore. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram at natalie.newhart. That's where I do all my promotional stuff. You'll hear about events that I'm running, workshops that I'm running, classes I'm running. And my website is fitaddictednutrition.com, which I don't really like use it all that much. I'd say just find me on Instagram, and then every 3 months I run a 12-week mindset class. So I take people through one of these phases, So if you just want to try out one phase, you can totally do that. If you want to do the whole year and go in depth on nutrition, exercise, mindset, all of it, then I have a separate program for that. So, but I'll always be promoting it on Instagram. So that's a place to check me out, and reach out to me if you want to set up a call. I'd be happy to just, get on a quick call with you and just, get you to where you want to go that much faster. Stop wasting so much time.
Love it. Awesome. All right. I will definitely link all of that in the show notes so people can check it out. And yeah, again, super, super fun conversation. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of MetFlex and Chill. I hope you enjoyed it. It would be awesome if you could give this show 5 stars and leave a review on iTunes. We're trying to get placed in the top 100 health podcasts, and the 5-star ratings and reviews are what can help make that happen. I'll add step-by-step directions for leaving a review in the show notes. I know it's a big ask, but it really helps. Thanks again. See you next time.